It's contagious. I don't know what else.
Hi, I'm David Remnick of The New Yorker, and I should say that the Saturday Night Live cast got to bed at about what time this morning? 7 a.m.
5, 6.
7.
Yeah.
6
Yeah. Everybody had to take off their sunglasses as we came out. I'm really proud to have the cast or the better part of the cast of Saturday Night Live here, especially
Best part of the cast, you mean?
the best part of the cast, the core of the cast. And one feature of this, we've done this before some years ago, and Lorne Michaels was here, which was a little bit like having Papa on stage and everybody around. Everybody's a little bit withdrawn with Papa here. Papa's not here, so.
It could
He's
be.
here, though.
But is it me, though?
He is.
Okay.
Never far.
I think you know who everybody is, but very quickly, Fred Armisen. Seth Meyers.
Wow, we're going over that way.
Andy Samberg.
Okay, he's back over there.
Jason Sudeikis.
That's weird. That's a different thing.
Keenan Thompson.
I got that.
And the great Kristen Wiig. Now, do the Don Pardo thing. I want that more than anything, is to be Don Pardo. I want to start from the beginning of your Saturday Night Live careers. I read a massive tome on Saturday Night Live, a big oral biography that Tom Shales had done some time ago. And some of the most horrific or horrifying or nervous-making stories I read in there was auditioning for Lorne Michaels. And I'd just like to begin with all of you, serially, talking a little bit about how you did this. I don't know, casting couch methods or whatever it might be. So maybe, Fred, you can start.
Well, for me, it was through all the regular routes. You know, my agent sent in a tape, and Marcy Klein saw it. And my first audition was at the UCB, where we do like characters and impressions. And then my next audition was at the studio, 8H. And for me, it was less about being scared than just being starstruck by everybody. Tina was there, Lorne was there, and I was just so psyched to be.
Where were you coming from? What was your?
I was doing stand-up in Los Angeles. And, yeah, they just flew me in, and I couldn't believe I was there. So, it was scary, but in a good way.
Does he laugh?
I can't see, you can't see anything. It's just, everything's are kind of like in the dark. All you see is the stage manager. And he came up to me and he said, either slate your name or don't slate your name. And I couldn't hear what he said. So he was like, no, slate your name. And I just did it anyway.
What do you think put you over the top? What did you do?
What I did for my audition? I did Felicito, this like Latin American character, and this self-defense instructor, and then a couple of impressions. I did Sam Waterston.
We could watch, because I was on before Fred, and you can watch auditions on the feed, and I remember, that's a really good Sam Waterston.
Ian? Are you awake?
Did you not
You're
think
there.
this question was coming?
Well, I started talking about stuff and I lost track of what the was. Audition?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Fred's
nailed
audition.
it.
We're talking about
Fred's I've watched Fred's audition a few times. It's pretty good. I don't know who Sam Waterston is, but like, he's a funny character. I was feeling that. I had been working, living in LA with my two buddies, Akiva and Yorma, who I work with on all the digital shorts and stuff, and we were friends from junior high and high school. And we did a bunch of short film stuff together. We had a website, and I had done a bunch of stand-up. But I actually got the audition because we were writers for the MTV Movie Awards, and Jimmy Fallon was the host. And he brought a bunch of SNL writers and producers with him, and we kind of all hit it off.
Wow. Just speed it up.
This might be my only chance to tell this story.
I covered my mic and I covered my mouth. I'm sorry.
I think she was calling bullshit on
No,
this.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, the day of the audition, I felt like, this is it. But yeah, Fallon and the producers recommended me, so I went and I did some stand-up, and I didn't really have characters and impressions at the ready, so I kind of made them up that week.
Who parked their car?
That's mine.
That's a long story.
That's my car. Why do you... What's so weird about my car?
Why is it lit?
I get it. You're a Subway guy. I get it. Yeah, I don't know. What else should I say about it?
Jason, when you did your audition, did you think this is it? It's either this or driving a truck?
No.
Not the thing.
No, not
He had just failed his driving a truck.
Yeah. I'm not good with reverse. And you got to go reverse a lot in a truck.
Dress for the job you want?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But I did, yeah, when I went, it was, I was living in Las Vegas, working at the Second City there, and then sent in a tape, and then Marcy Klein saw it as well, and then they flew me out, and my first time doing it was first time, yeah, I did it in a stand-up club. Like, it was at Stand Up New York. Anybody else doing a stand-up club?
No, but I've heard they did.
Yeah, we auditioned at the same time, and it was like, I guess, knowing what I know now, probably 70% just a regular audience, like just, paying to see a stand-up show, and then 30% either worked for SNL, then the back was like the table of like, Tina and Lauren, the people that Fred was talking about. And I'd never done stand-up before, and so that was a little nerve-wracking. But then what was really awesome was right before I went on, in came walking Jeffrey Ross, the stand-up, really funny guy that does all those roasts and everything, and then behind him, Chris Rock. And so they come walking into Stand Up New York. Yeah, you know Chris Rock, right? And and he and I'm like, oh wow, they must be coming to check out, like, they knew their auditions, like watching, alumni coming and see who the new kids are going to be, whatever. And then the guy goes to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, the one guy gets done, and everyone, he's great. And like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat for you. Put your hands together for the one and only Chris Rock. So then Chris Rock goes up. And then he does like 10, 15 minutes. They were working on jokes for the Video Music Awards or something like that, whatever he was hosting that week. And then I had to follow Chris Rock. And it was like that was Chris Rock. He killed. It was great. Luckily, it was, like I said, it was only 10, 15 minutes. And the guy was like, and up next, all right, put your hands together for Jason Sudeikis. And I went up there and I was just like, oh, it's Sudeikis, but you don't care. Let's go. Here we go. Let's do it. And so that was really nerve-wracking. Then you had to do the same thing the next day at the studio when you get called back. Yeah, and then I didn't get the job. I got hired as a writer. So,
which you took how?
What's that?
Which you took how? I mean, you thought you had failed as a performer?
No, not failed so much as like I don't know what I right away I just figured, okay, well the fix is on. I got to get in here and then get as many paychecks as I can before they realize I'm not a good writer. Well, that's very nice of you. But like, I didn't think I was at the time, and I didn't know how to write for other people, and that's what I was being asked to do. And so I got real nervous, and I never unpacked my boxes that I moved from Las Vegas because I just figured because we had friends like from the Second City in Chicago that had been really good writers and good at writing for other people that then got let go like after 6 episodes or a year, and so I just figured, oh well, who knows. So it's kind of like winning. I was excited, but it was like winning a gold medal. What I've always said is like winning a gold medal in an event that I wasn't very good at and didn't really know how to do well.
Kristen?
What?
Come on, man.
Is it okay? Can we?
Yeah, you did great.
Am I done?
Gold medal.
Mine was very different. Lorne.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
I've done that before.
That's why I gave such a long answer to give it space. So when he called it back, it
It was a good setup. I appreciate it.
Sorry, Wig.
That's all right. Lorne and I made love for 3 days. 10 years ago, I did not get a job. No, I was at the Groundlings in Los Angeles, and same kind of. Oh yeah, really? Thanks. Yeah, my manager sent in a tape, same kind of thing, and Audition was the scariest time I've ever had on stage. I don't do stand-up either, and a lot of the sketch and stuff I've done have been just character stuff. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a lot of experience of just looking out onto a crowd and just performing by myself.
So without stand-up experience, you have to do it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's like they say 5 minutes, which I took to and they said try not to go over 5 minutes. So I went out and bought a stopwatch. I'm not kidding. I bought a stopwatch and I timed myself. I was up all night trying to get it exactly 5 minutes. And yeah.
What did you do?
I did the Target lady and the Aunt Linda.
With the sponge.
With the sponge.
With the Target lady with the sponge to count the dollars.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember every day. Yeah.
Did you do Diane Sawyer?
I did Jane
Jane
Pauley.
Pauley,
Yeah. Well, I auditioned twice actually. I auditioned in the beginning of the summer with you, right?
Yeah.
Was my first audition with you or second?
Second. I
Second.
auditioned twice too.
Right.
I did too.
I auditioned and then didn't hear anything, and then I got a call like on a Friday that was like, "Can you come in again on Wednesday?" And I remember thinking like I did everything I could possibly think of doing in the first audition. Like I squeezed everything in there, so I had to like try to come up with new. It was terrifying, and they're sort of all in the dark, like they were saying.
Keenan?
I was in LA as well. I just left the Nickelodeon world, and
In a hail of bullets, right?
you know, but I self-medicated myself and came back into the game. No, I wanted to be on SNL for a long time when I first left Nickelodeon, like 2000, but they said I looked like a little baby. And so I get that. So, a couple years went by, and like I guess there was like finally, time for like new black guys, I guess, on the show. They auditioned like 30 of us,
almanac, like a
rounded up
yeah.
all the good black guys, bring them in here, and lined up one by one.
Same year I auditioned.
That's right.
It really was.
With all the black guys.
It worked out.
It worked for you.
Sudeikis sounded like a black man?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the Clinton thing that you have going on.
What's that?
It was like the Bill Clinton thing.
It was, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of.
Saxophone for 7 minutes.
Right?
That's all I did.
And I had to do the stand-up thing, too. I'd never done stand-up, but I did it at the stand-up New York, and it was weird because Kel was there, and he was auditioning for the show, too, and, it was just an awkward moment. But the stand-up thing was very nervous because I'd never done it before, and it was like in a real comedy club, and people are like smoking cigarettes, tell jokes and stuff like that. But after that, it was on the stage, like a couple of days later, and that was a lot more familiar. And then one more time in Los Angeles at another comedy club.
But you don't work with somebody else in an audition. It's all you.
Yeah. As far as like the stand-up goes, it's just you and the mic.
No. I've read that.
Yeah.
Seth.
I was doing a 2-person show in Chicago, like a sketch improv show, and someone from the talent department saw us doing that, and they asked for a tape. So I sent in a tape, and like 6 months later they asked for a tape, and then 6 months after that. So almost a full year after they brought me in for audition. And I went in, and the audition was a case where I was also the best dressed there.
As now.
Sorry.
I mean, New Yorker for me is like a brand that says
no,
like
no,
that.
Sorry.
Totally.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Did we get that on video?
Yeah. Shame.
We'll be using
Again, I didn't think it would be in a
Along.
hangar with no carpeting either. So I
At a car.
We had a car, one call. But no, I came in and auditioned, and the same thing. I was like a very, I think I'm sort of a rule follower, maybe like Kristen, because I had exactly 5 minutes as well. But it was weird because I remember the worst part about it was like everybody in my hotel, because they flew me in, was like our whole floor was people who were auditioning for the show.
Right.
So you would like walk down the hallway and just hear people like doing impressions. And like everything you hear sounds better than what you have.
Right.
So you like walk by and like, oh my God, it's like, that has to be the Kevin Spacey.
Audition.
Yeah. But and then I just I auditioned and then like went back. Actually, I was in LA at the time. I went back to LA and then got called back in for a meeting. And I remember I had a meeting with Lorne, and I had not had the job yet. I think he was just sort of doing a personality vet.
And how was that?
It was it's super crazy because obviously everyone knows Lorne Michaels as like this iconic person, and then you're meeting him with the chance of him giving you a job. But I remember we talked for a while, and then he said, "So do you think you could live in New York?" And I remember thinking, like, does anyone blow it at this point? Did anyone say, like, "Oh, is it definitely in New York?" I'll talk to some people. But and then even then he didn't. It wasn't official then. I flew all the way back to LA before I finally got the
But did any of you not make it the first time and get bounced and then have to come back the next year? Or you all made it the first time you auditioned?
I mean, getting hired. Not getting hired by a writer as a writer. That's
Fair enough. You're in the door.
Right.
And
there were
I
a couple
came-
like two. We would like have 2 audition periods in the same summer.
Yeah.
Like a big one and then sort of cull it down.
Yeah.
And I didn't start at the beginning of the season. I came in because I didn't hear if I got the job. And I remember watching the season premiere.
Right.
It's like, well, I guess I didn't. But yeah, it was like after
They
the
can't
fourth.
put one over on you.
Yeah, no, I was ready. Yeah, and after like the fourth show, I got a call again. I think on a Wednesday, and said, "Can you be here Saturday?"
Right.
Just to watch, and that I had been hired, so I had to come in sort of like fifth show.
So I went to high school at the other high school from Bill Maher, and I went to their talent show when we were both 16 or 17. And Bill and everybody, people played folk songs or rock songs. They were comedians. They sang whatever they did. Bill Maher gets up and makes vicious fun of the French exchange student at Pascagoula High School. And it was unbelievably vicious and unbelievably funny. And everybody that knew Bill thought right then and there that he was going to be it. There was a sense of kind of both meanness and ruthlessness and also unbelievably funny. And I've heard Tina Fey talk about this too when she was in high school or a little bit older, that there's a certain kind of ruthlessness that you've got to have in order to be funny, in order to go too far enough. When did you feel it in yourselves that you had this capacity to be tough-minded? Never?
I don't know if it's mean, though.
I don't mean mean, but you've got to be able to go far. Not everybody
There's a
can do
certain
it.
point that I can't go beyond.
What's that?
Yeah.
The mean point, probably. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily like to diss people to get a laugh. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like it's necessary.
I don't feel like meanness works particularly well on SNL.
I do like breaking people down, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it started kind of, I know.
But you've all had your go
Remnick.
at this celebrity or that politician or
Right.
It might not be meanness, but
Well, no, that's what I mean.
It's
I mean,
not
like,
things that normal people do every day.
Right, certainly.
Exactly. Exaggerated.
Well, I think it's abnormal more than ruthless.
Yes.
I think we recognize that in ourselves probably pretty early. Yeah, but I think for myself, it was just like, I think as a kid, you realize how much nicer it is when you can make people laugh.
Right.
Especially if you're bad at sports. It's a good secondary thing to have.
Yeah.
But you say you can't go too far. I mean, what? For example, you're doing
Yeah, like, I don't know if like I can watch somebody and then completely just rip them to shreds, like based on their education from how they talk for 10 minutes or something. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell this guy's whole background or whatever.
Sure.
And blah blah blah. Like, I don't know if I have those kind of.
But a public figure,
jokes,
you feel
really.
the same thing about a public figure?
Well, people that put themselves out there like that. Like I was saying, like Star Jones, when she was getting married, that was one thing that we were really big on parodying because she was so big about having it being sponsored by certain people. So
Right.
those were the certain things we would point out. And like more recently, I would say like Steve Harvey and like how he just goes places where he doesn't belong. Makes a fool sometimes, but those kind of things. Like, we're not trying to be mean, but we are pointing out the things that are kind of there.
When David Patterson got upset,
Yes.
were you upset as a cast, as an enterprise? When you heard that he had his feelings hurt, did you care? Did you think maybe we struck a nerve or went too far?
Fred?
I wasn't more like, oh, that's too bad. We kind of kept, but it didn't affect. We had another show to do, and we just keep going.
I do remember the cover of AM magazine that day. The AM paper was a giant picture of Fred with an insert picture of Patterson that just said too far.
Yeah, it was a total.
I feel like that happens around you a lot.
I think we were aware, by the way, that it was like there were certain elements of that were indefensible.
Right.
And I think we just were, and like it's rare that we have that, but I think there was something that was it was so a caricature of the guy. But I mean, again, like Fred plays him like a Catskill comic. It's like there's a lot. It's a jumping off point, and obviously there was a lot that like I said, there was a lot of it that was just purely silly, and we knew that there was a chance, certainly that.
But we tried to make him likable, though.
Yeah. Which is, I will say that like that's a big thing. Like impressions always work better if you're playing them likable. Like you can't, if you hate a person and you play the impression and you let the audience know that you as the performer hate them,
Right.
It never works. Like you have to find the thing in them that you sort of like makes them likable.
Right. Well, it's almost like the celebrity television, the 7 o'clock shows stand there as something to give you material, like throwing up characters like Paris Hilton, whoever it might be, and that Saturday Night Live can have grist for the mill. It's like the political world. When Sarah Palin came on the show, all these politicians seem to have gotten the message that the way to play this is to laugh along with you. And do you ever worry that you're being used by them because they've gotten so hip to that and they use you for their own political purposes and to improve their own images?
I felt that more with like celebrities. Like we had that heyday when like someone would show up in Us Weekly on Tuesday, then they'd be on the show like on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like,
For example, who?
Like
Paris Hilton,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like Lindsay Lohan. You know, like there were those times when people would come and talk about their like celebrity gossip. The politicians, I thought it was really weird. Like we did a show on Saturday, and the election was Tuesday. And remember, like McCain was there.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this dude knows he's He's doing skits on Saturday.
It was.
I'm sitting next to him in Lorne's office, and we're talking about Arizona University basketball. It's like,
Right.
well, if they know how much money Piranha 3D is going to make, they know who's going to win the presidency.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are, but it's a group of people that
It was
are
funny.
really
He was
good at
backstage.
pre-counting. And like, it was so weird.
He also seemed so happy that it was almost over.
Yeah.
He was so
McCain
happy.
did.
Yeah, that night. Because he did a sketch at he was on QVC with
Yeah.
with Tina as Sarah.
Right.
Which is also crazy. He was doing like jokes about Sarah Palin.
And like, yeah.
like
They're going
like
rogue
and they were
everything.
still running for president together. Like it wasn't like, do you see her anymore? It's like, no, we don't. It's like they were still you could still go vote for them as the president. It was crazy. It was the best. That was
It
the
was
most,
something else, yeah.
Now, Fred, is there extra pressure doing the President of the United States? This is a very high-profile, big deal thing. And how did you approach, not asking you to do them, but if you'd like, feel free. But how do you put together this thing? And there's a hell of a lot of pressure to do that.
I try not to think about it. I can't think about it. The only pressure I can feel is just from the writers and from Lorne, and to deliver just on the sketch alone. I can't, if I fall into that, I'll just get buried, you know. So I just try not to think about
But
it.
what were you watching when you first started watching Obama? And
I started
what were you
listening.
picking out?
I started listening to his to stuff he had on iTunes. Like he had his book on there, and I just listened all the way through, and I just kept listening on my iPod, and it was mostly like an audio thing. And then I tried not to do too much. I tried not to like bombard it with characterization, and I just let it grow throughout the years. Is how I treated it.
And when you do, we have practically the whole administration up here, at least Democratic leadership. Doing Joe Biden, when you're trying to put together Joe Biden, what are the characteristics there? He's a little broader. A little broader.
I think it's like if my dad was like a politician, like, and really like hearing himself talk. Like, I don't know, because I haven't met the fella, and I've only listened to him a couple times. It's probably a lot more actually me than anything.
Yeah.
Than I get.
It's
me
you
and
with giant teeth.
Me with giant teeth. This guy joking around, just sort of talking.
Unleash something.
He does. We did. When Sudeikis rolls out as Biden, he usually says "Heyo."
Heyo.
I don't think. But it was. I mean, the problem for writing for Obama is I feel like Obama himself has an incredible comic awareness. Like he's a very funny guy. He's very self-aware, and so it was great for us to, we decided to go a little more cartoony with Biden. I think because we needed a comic foil. I think more than anything else.
Now, in one of maybe the greatest recent Saturday Night Live sketch, you did Nancy Pelosi with I think John Hamm did
Scott Brown.
Scott Brown. Nancy Pelosi is just a big fat old pitch, but it can't be that hard. It can't be that easy to do. So how do you go about
fat old
putting
what?
it together?
Pitch.
You went to bed very late.
Right there with you.
It's the way it's British called. It's the British way to say bitch.
Oh, okay. European.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
She's kind of hard. I mean, sometimes when someone doesn't have like a specific way of talking that would be easy to impersonate, you just have to like find something really little that they do and then make it.
For example,
much like her eyes are really open. She does a lot of blinking, and she's got a little bit of like a Philly accent, and I don't know. I just kind of took that and.
those eyes are very open.
Yeah, well, sometimes she just opens them.
I wonder how that happened.
Weird times.
That's a nice thing too, because which is hard because I think the first time you did Pelosi, that Downey piece a while ago when she first became speaker, was like you realize that there, I mean, in our audience, which is, you know, sort of about this size, not much bigger on a Saturday night, you know, there might be a lot of people that don't know what's funny about Nancy Pelosi. So it's nice when you get somebody like Kristen who sort of makes a choice of a thing that is funny even if you don't know Nancy Pelosi. Mm-hmm. So then it can both work as like sort of a piece about politics, but it can also work as like, I like this performance. This is funny that this girl is like doing weird stuff with her face.
Now, this show shows up on Saturday night. Often there are pieces on it that come right out of Thursday and Friday. If you could run through how this show is put together in the course of the week, I think people would be interested in that.
Do we each want to take a day?
Oh, that's fun.
We
That's
get
fun.
emails.
Take a day.
People suggest things.
No, hold on.
No,
what are you
Come
doing?
on, man.
That's not true.
Okay.
Come on.
You know what? You know who I think is going to take the leadership on this? I think Andy should.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah. there you go.
I will definitely take Monday.
There you go. Go Monday.
Pitch meeting with the host.
I will say here, so pitch me those. Everybody sits around.
What
the
is it?
host
Thank
is
you.
there.
Thank you.
Yes. But I'm going to burn Andy because we all sit
Who's the host this coming week?
Jane Lynch. So Jane Lynch will come in. Lauren will say, "Ladies, everybody, this is Jane Lynch." We'll all clap, and then he'll go, and then it'll call out somebody's name, and you'll tell them like 2 ideas you're thinking of working on. When they call in Andy, he will say 2 ideas he thought of 5 minutes ago. Right. Is that accurate?
What?
And it's a very tiny space. It's Lauren's office, so we're all sort of like crouched down on.
How many people are in the?
It's like the size of this stage, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it's really small.
It's tiny.
And how many
very
people are
humble.
crammed in?
Probably about 30, right?
30 people on the.
Yeah. People on the floor,
Couch.
couch, people like
Lauren
arms
and
and chairs.
I bet it's 40 if you like
It's
with all the
probably
cast.
40,
Yeah, then assistants and.
And Sudeikis does an awesome power play. I think it's safe
He
to
does.
say. You sit behind the host.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the host, they go, and then he goes, Jason, and so the host has to do this. And Jason has had, since he started working, a tiny...
Yeah, I got it.
Do you have it with you?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a notebook. You carry it everywhere, right?
And he opens it up.
And this is
him a-
what he
give him
does for like 3 minutes.
And he,
Give him a little
it's
taste.
good
Give him a
because he
little
hasn't
taste.
decided yet what he's going to pitch.
Pretend the audience is Jane Lynch. Give him a little taste.
Hey, Jane. Nice to have you here. I have an idea for you to play like an Elmer Fudd type character that sells handbags. And you're always like, "Hello, ma'am. Can I sell you a puss?"
That's
really in there. That's really in there.
And then there's a lot of rhymes here for the ESPN guys about Preparation H.
Yeah.
Mistakes, you correct them, especially on your rectum.
You need a notebook for that because it's impossible to remember. Yeah, and then, but we sort of do that, and then people...
That's Monday?
That's
Yeah.
Monday.
It's also
It's
a
kind of
topic meeting.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
too, because it's like you pitch, and then sometimes there's a little bit of a silence that you just look at the host, and then Lauren.
So the
calls
host
him.
gets to choose?
No, Lauren. You kind of go around the room. It's basically like the same order, but you pitch.
It's kind of a show for the host
Yeah.
to some degree. Like when we
They
are
don't really
pitching
change.
real things. It's the first. I think when people come to host Saturday Night Live because they're so familiar with the show, what the show is, they're so terrified that they're going to do a 90-minute show, and they don't know anything that's going to be in it.
Right.
And so they're so panicked, and then they sit in a room, and 40 people each tell them 2 ideas, and then they relax. They go, "Oh, okay, there's plenty of stuff," and like. People pitch, and like, you know, if Jason pitches, everybody laughs, and it's the first time I think they settle down.
It's got to be radically different when you're in there with a pro like her, as opposed to, say, Paris Hilton, who is
Yes.
not
Yes.
entirely a pro.
No, it's a huge difference. I mean, this has been a really exciting start of the season for us because we obviously had Amy Poehler and then Bryan Cranston and Jane Lynch are like sort of all people
People who know what they're doing.
and have done some comedy, so it's great.
Do you hate it when they're not in that?
Not necessarily.
No,
that
sometimes-
presents.
I hate it.
Wow.
I mean, you know, with somebody like Justin Timberlake, who I think the first time he came, we didn't know what to expect at all. I mean, there are ones that sort of, like Justin, that is the biggest surprise ever, and then there are ones like Paris Hilton that kind of go the way you thought they might. So,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
who's picking Tuesday?
Tuesday's writing night. Folks get in there anywhere between like noon and then it can stay as late as the very next day. I think we really have a tendency, and everybody jump in here when I'm talking about this, but like, and then people ask, how are things written, you know, and it's like every combination of ways you can think of, you know, 2 actors get together, you know, a cast member and a writer get together, a writer just sits in a room by his or herself and comes up with an idea. sometimes the host will write stuff and co-write with you if they're game for that.
And as it gets later in the week, there's a little bit of like somebody needs to write this, but on Tuesday it's really everybody can do whatever you want. We kind of feel like that's the best.
And so
way.
you're just throwing as many things against the wall as possible.
We try to get to on Wednesday we have a read through about 40 sketches. So over the course of the night, like about 40 different elements get written.
The weird thing about Tuesday is like people literally stay all night. Like, and I don't know. Have we ever discussed it as like a vestige from like the years when maybe it was fueled by cocaine?
I don't know.
I've heard.
I think so.
What's it fueled by now?
Cocaine.
Love.
No cocaine.
Good. So the
Only
tradition-
dealing. We
it's such
only
a good
deal it
tradition.
now.
Yeah. So we're just up all night dealing.
Oh, that's so
You only deal it?
Yeah, we're supposed to only deal it.
What? No one's gonna tell me that?
It's hard to get a word in on Tuesdays with you.
I'm like flying. There's the other thing I think about staying late is like there's that thing of like, you know, at like midnight. At midnight, you're like, that seems too silly. But like at 8 in the morning, you're like, remember that idea that was too silly? And it is that thing of like, you know, there's a very, the read-through is very schizophrenic in that all the pieces, like they, you know, because they aren't run through one sort of filter of like, someone saying like, you write this, you write this, you write this. So everybody's kind of coming with their own things. They're different lengths, they're different ideas. Some stuff is characters, some stuff's based on like pop culture or politics. So there's a great, I think sort of like staying through the night, you sort of wear down all those sort of governors.
So the show is roughly written for the most part on the long Tuesday marathon, and then rehearsals start?
5% of it, yeah.
How much of the show even roughly resembles, what was the Aaron Sorkin show that was?
Studio 60?
Yeah. When you watch that show, and maybe you don't remember it because it didn't last all that long.
Oh, I'll watch a TV show about my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. When it happens.
Yeah.
What was the resemblance or not?
Very little. I mean, none of us quote writers as well as they did. They were so much smarter than us.
Yeah. A little less dramatic, I think.
Yeah.
We have our moments there, but
More
it's not
cocaine.
every week. You
Yeah.
know, like it was. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
when some things happen, like Ashley Simpson, or like usually when someone drops an F-bomb or something like that.
Well, that's it.
feels
That was
like
one of the big
startling.
dramas on that show. Constantly the showing up of the censor or whatever.
Right.
The
Our censor, we've really worn our censor into the ground.
Yeah.
We write
So
our
tell us,
sentences.
who is this person that's the censor, and what
This
are the
wonderful, wonderful woman. For real.
She really is.
She's named Betsy Torres, and she's great. And she understands what the show is. You know, she works for NBC, and she understands that we're the show that probably pushes it the farthest. And she on...
So what are her limits now?
I know. I guess, what would be her limits?
Anywhere
What?
between
The best is she sends out a memo on Thursday with
Yeah.
with the excerpts of everything she marks. And there's always, like, she says, like, we have a tonnage issue on butts and boobs. Like, and then she'll, like, mark all of them.
Tonnage issue.
A tonnage issue. Like, of the 40 pieces we had to read through, like, we mentioned, like, butts and boobs too much. It doesn't happen all the time. Happens rarely. Race, I mean, also race is something that is still, like, I would say as censors, that's, like, the last.
Why is that a censor thing?
I don't know. I should have asked her.
standards.
Standards, it's like standards, yeah.
Standards and
Standards,
But it's a matter of language, or it's a matter of taste. It's a matter of.
There's a little of everything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And the nice thing is, if you, I mean, I will say she's great. She approaches it away and she sort of explains why she's talking to you about it. And there are times where you go, oh, yes, that makes sense.
Do you think this is ridiculous at this point? I mean, with cable and the way we live now, the way we talk now, the way humor is everywhere else, the business of, I mean, anybody jump in? Is it ridiculous to have these standards?
I mean, for our show, there's a lot of kids that watch, so I feel like that's sort of the main reason to keep it intact.
And you're worrying about corrupting them?
I'm worried about not corrupting them.
I will say, I mean,
Hurts you, right?
a thing I really like about the show is
We're all pervs here, right?
Huh? New Yorker Festival, huh? You don't associate with the rest of the country.
I think a bunch of, like, I think it's multi-generational who watches it. You know, my parents watched it when they were, you know, younger than I am now.
Yeah.
And they still, I mean, obviously, they probably watch it more because I'm on it. But they still, I mean, I have a lot of my parents' friends watch the show, and, like, you know, I think they do have, you know, even though cable has changed and stuff, they're not watching the cable shows that are on, you know, networks that have sort of get away with more. And I think that they like the idea that there's a show that sort of, pushes the envelope but doesn't sort of disregard it entirely.
Yeah, I think Lorne's super. I mean, I know he's super proud of the fact that we're like such a vestige to old television, and I think keeping up those standards and even delicately, tiptoeing the line is very much
part of the game.
In line with it. Yeah, absolutely.
Would it be less funny if you had the door was completely open to everything?
Maybe.
Probably.
I do think so. I think it'd be less interesting, certainly. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing too is when there's something like Dick in a Box, which standards and practices might have an issue with, and obviously it was beeped and stuff, but that was something where Lorne believed was this is a scene about a dick in a box, but it's done to the height of its intelligence. It's the best one. It's the best one ever.
Yeah.
The laugh wasn't on, it wasn't just a dude came in and goes, it was art.
Yeah.
It was art to it.
That's how they wrote it originally, right?
Yeah, it's further proof that if you can sing like Justin, you can pretty much do anything.
Already Dick in the Box.
I like this.
How do characters that become associated, you two especially have a lot of characters that you've done who are not famous people. Is that done in conjunction with everybody else, or you develop them on your own and bring them to the show? How does that go?
Yeah, I mean, I would say most of the time character work probably comes from the individual trying to explain a certain kind of voice that they can do probably to a writer, I got this voice, you know what I mean, what do you think we can do with this? Or as far as whatever that goes, I went to Brian Tucker and I was like, I want to sing, you know what I mean? And I was like, I think it would be funny if I sang and I didn't let anybody talk, you know what I mean? And that's all I had, you know what I mean? Somehow they turn it into stuff Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Magazine, and those are the kind of things I don't know if I would have thought of on my own, which is why I like to write with writers and stuff, because I think it's nice to have different perspectives coming together and stuff like that. So.
And so you introduce a character and then everybody starts writing around it, or you write the whole
I'm sure we all have our favorites or people that we, I think get it, as far as what our comedy is and what our, talents are pretty much, and how to get that out of us mostly. And for me, it's Brian Tucker and James Anderson and Colin Jost, and Colin's my office mate or whatever, so we work together a lot just by spending time together. But Brian has written for the Chris Rock show and Dave Chappelle, so he's kind of a go-to African American area writer. You know what I mean? Terrible to have to say it like that, but he does get those kind of notes of 70s references and stuff like that or whatever. So, and I write a lot of the gayer things. Can you say gayer things with James? Because he's gay, he gets that, and he likes to write that way too. He's fun. So when I used to do a lot of ladies, it would be with James and stuff like that, because he has that kind of sensibility, I guess. And I don't know. I just go to certain different writers, I guess, for different things that I see that they're good at or whatever, that I feel like I could help.
Okay, Kristen?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's writing night. You make appointments with different people, and we do have some writers that we generally write with more than others, just from same sense of humor or just familiarity, whatever. But yeah, you sit in the room. Sometimes you don't have an idea. Sometimes you do, and you're goofing around. Something makes you laugh. Should we write that? Maybe let's write that. Or I saw this woman on the street that did this. Is this funny? Sure, but is it 3 minutes? Do you want to see her for 3 minutes? Right. But yeah, it comes from so many different.
The most brutal part of this process has got to be the editing down, what goes out. How does that happen and when?
We do a rewrite. Well, Wednesday night after the read through, we cut the 40 to about 10. And that's Lorne goes in on a room with a couple other people and the host.
40 potential segments go to 10.
Yeah, and that's Wednesday night.
But on a typical week, you really come up with 40 different things to
yes,
going?
Yes.
Wow.
At least 40, yeah, sometimes 45. And reading them all on Wednesday, that's
really
about,
are on cocaine on Tuesday night. Yeah.
Long.
You wish you were on cocaine when you read them.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the 45...
the next day, they
it's not that. It's just having to sit and do... I mean, it's takes about 4.5, 5 hours.
Fun until about 32.
Yeah.
And then those last 8 are just really heavy. Yeah. It's heavy on the eyes.
Shit Can Alley, I think.
Yeah.
Shit Can Alley.
When you show up, when you work all night on the thing on Tuesday and you show up on Wednesday and you see where it is and it's like that's 38th, you're like, why? I worked hard.
Was it that bad?
Was that bad?
I sworn that was funny.
Who ranks them?
We have a couple guys, sort of producers, who they read through everything sort of Wednesday, like 10 a.m. and try to make there's a real method to it. You know, you want to make sure that if the host's doing the same thing, you spread those apart, and we sort of do two halves, and you always want to start a half with like an option for like a monologue.
And the final arbiter is Lorne Michaels?
Lorne, he has a couple people. I'm in the room when we sort of pick him, but I realize like it's everybody else combines for 1% of the vote, and Lorne still has 99.
I ask this gently: is he unfailingly right, like God, or does he? Or are there things that he doesn't get and that frustrate?
Oh, he gets everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to be right all the time, but I think he's unfailingly fair, which I think is the.
Do you ever get pissed that he's not gotten it? He can't hear it.
No.
No, never.
I mean, I did earlier in my
Yes,
time
no.
there.
Well, I mean, I had an experience with him that showed me like what kind of person he was. You know what I mean? Like he's not just all off in like Lorne Michaels' world. Like we walked back from a dinner together. He just chose. It was freezing, but he chose to walk that night, and I walked with him. And like some guy came up to him who was looking for probably money, but he gave him this whole story about how he was homeless and blah blah blah. And Lorne gave the guy like $100, like quick, you know, like here, take it. And he didn't really have to do that, but since he did do that, I was like, well, this guy kind of has his feet on the ground still. So
That was an actor Lorne hired. He does it once he hires you. He goes, "Let's go on a walk."
Yeah, seriously. I mean, mind you, all he had was $100 bills, but
It's good to
he
be the
gave
kid.
him one.
It is good to be the kid.
But yeah, I mean, that being said, it's like I think he does pay attention. You know what I mean? Like, and him being a writer himself, like I think he pays a lot of attention, like to the words and what's going on and what we're actually trying to create on the page, which is important because that's what we're trying to create in real life. So if it doesn't really make sense on the page, then I don't think it can really be built properly. So I think he recognizes that too. Sorry.
Sure. Over and over, somebody like Jon Stewart is asked if he thinks that his show is taking the place of a kind of diminishing TV news, which has gotten both smaller and maybe worse or maybe more ridiculous or maybe more devalued. And he constantly has to remind the audience that, in fact, it's a comedy show. And yet, at the same time, a lot of the praise around the show is that you're getting more truth there than you are, presumably, from network news. Similar thing with Weekend Update, which is, in a way, a kind of, do you feel rivalrous with Jon Stewart at all?
I feel rivalrous with the news. No, Brian Williams is my rival. All I want to be is the most trusted name at NBC.
In other words, do you feel any responsibility beyond making people?
No, I mean, I have to say, like, I think as far as, like, sort of trenchant political satire, like, we could never sort of compete with The Daily Show, who does it sort of at a level that I think is impossible to match. Like, they're incredible at what they do. I mean, I think when you actually look at Weekend Update, you know, like, we try to, in the sort of first half of Weekend Update, do jokes about things that have happened during the week.
Right.
But we have to make jokes about things that sort of everybody's heard about. We're better at making jokes on things they know about than educating them on things they don't.
Right.
Which I think is more the news's role. So we have to sort of find the things. I mean, like, we had an interesting thing last night with just the Rick Sanchez story, which was he got fired at like 5 o'clock on a Friday. So, you know, by doing a show at Saturday at 11:30, like, a lot of people like sort of just hadn't maybe heard that Rick Sanchez got fired. So, you know, we did a joke about it, but we don't really have the same means to sort of tell the story and then make a joke on it. And again, you know, I think as far as politics on our show, it's really, you know, on a big week, it's 20% of our show. You know, maybe during election it creeps up to 30, but it's really a variety show. And I think it's easier to not have to.
When you look at the show in the early years on DVD or however you were from memory and you watched it, how different is the show now than it was in the early days, Andy? I mean, what is the show doing now that's different than it was?
I mean, it's only as different as the world is different. Not to be pretentious
Not to
about
be
it, or
right.
something, but yeah, not to be too right about it. But it's the same format, you know. And the thing that I've always sort of thought of SNL as the sort of campfire for the nation, which is whatever's happening in America is what the show is talking about and addressing, and then funny characters, you know.
So beyond sheer brilliance and the shifting of cast, how has this managed to last as long as it has? There's been other television shows that are pretty terrific, but they don't have nearly the same longevity. Why this? Why has this been able to last?
Well, because it's based on what's like. As long as things keep happening and changing in the world, there's always new material.
If Lorne Michaels decided that he wanted to live in, I don't know, Jamaica or something, and not come back and retire, would the show be able to sustain itself? Is it?
Well, it would be St. Bart's, I think. Not Jamaica.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, I don't think it could. I don't think it could survive that long. I think because of him, or because it's an expensive thing to do, or that it's live? Or? I think it just, like, I think that the real key to the longevity is, you know, it's certainly to some degree the fact that you keep, you know, bringing in new people and new writers and new cast members. But I think he's really the key to it. And like his integrity and how he runs it. I feel like if somebody else got in, the network would get more involved. And we have a really nice situation where, like, sort of, I think the network trusts Lorne in a way that you probably don't. There's probably very few people in television that have that sort of leeway.
Is this a show that's extremely expensive to do at this point?
I don't think Lorne sort of always says he doubts. There's a reason they're not starting new ones with, like, our sort of pattern. I mean, it is like there's a lot of vestigial things that I don't think in the modern day you would go, oh, we need to do this, we need to do it live, and we'll build 12 sets and we'll end up only using 8. I mean, because that's the other thing, you know, we pick 10 on Wednesday, we ultimately only do like 6 or 7 on the show, and so there's just like huge sets of like sketches that are just reeling out.
Costumes and extras, and sometimes they just get cut and it's just done.
Now, I, needless to say, screwed up. We should have shown a film. We're going to show it now. Not the Jason Schwartzman thing, which you've seen 72 times this weekend. And you saw it already.
Schwartzman.
And while we're showing this film, which is an overview of the last couple of seasons, we're going to bring some microphones up here and get some questions from the audience. Okay, so if we could roll that. Anybody still awake up there? There we go.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
It's Saturday Night Live!
Please understand, if it were my 800 billion, I wouldn't care. But it belongs to my country. I feel like I should bring it up.
You're going to get your money.
Say, while you're here, are you at least going to treat me to dinner and a movie?
I'm sorry?
I think it's the polite thing to do before doing sex to me.
I didn't know what Facebook was. And now that I do know what it is, I have to say, it sounds like a huge waste of time.
You know, working in Albany is a lot like watching Saturday Night Live. There's a lot of characters, it's funny for 10 minutes, and then you just want it to go away.
Senator Scott Brown, but you can call me Scott.
Hey there, Nancy. You're the Speaker of the House? Well, I hope you're a screamer in the bedroom. I want to introduce something to the floor. It's called your panties.
Blockbuster Video on Thursday filed for bankruptcy protection. Well, Blockbuster, seems our 8-year tug of war over Tango and Cash has reached its conclusion.
Some poser hands me cake at a birthday party. What you want me to do with this? Eat it? Happy birthday to the ground. I threw the rest of the cake too. Welcome to the real world, jackass.
Is America under attack? Let's go to our expert on the subject, Glenn Beck.
There was a man. Yeah. There was a man named George Washington.
and he is dead. And all the gays in the world can't bring him back to life. There is no I in liberty.
I'm sure you have a lot to say about your mother on this day. Tell me why you love her.
Her apple pie's the best. She tucks me in at night. She gives me good advice.
I'm only allowed upstairs.
No! No!
And the tree of knowledge is grown 'cause we plant the seed. We're the teachers of this, so we got just what you need.
These are cards for anyone in a troubled marriage. Like this one. This is good. This is a good card if you're a famous golfer who is unmasked as a sex maniac. On the front it says, I thought our marriage would be a hole-in-one. Too bad that I love holes a ton.
Because the last time you two were here, it seemed like you were not prepared at all.
Yeah, that's kind of the past.
Okay, great, I agree. So why don't you guys just take it away?
Okay. This song is called
Box of Chocolates. Here you go. 2, 3, 4. Milk, chocolate, milk, chocolate, milk, chocolate with cashews in the middle. Milk, chocolate, and dark chocolate. I heard a rumor that you gave me chocolate.
Enough. That is enough.
Now, you have a new book out called Our Choice, a plan to solve the climate crisis. Is that right?
I do. This is an issue I've been working on for a long time, and I feel we have all the tools we need to solve this problem, except perhaps the political will.
Political will.
Fortunately, in the United States, political will is a renewable resource.
Renewable resource,
This is a crisis of unprecedented scope.
Unprecedented, baby.
But I think we're up to the challenge.
Got to get up, 'cause I got to say, ooh-wee. What up with that? What up with that? Ooh-wee. What up with that? What up with that?
Good show. You have to come up and ask a question.
All right. All right.
Shyness.
Just anybody, whoever wants to come on down.
There we go. All right.
All right, number 30. Let's do it.
30. My question was in regard to the fact that we have the emergence of new media, particularly with online. I remember when Lazy Sunday came out and realizing the power of online video, and kind of Lazy Sunday was one of those first videos that kind of brought YouTube onto a lot of people's minds. Like, and how basically how that format, what was it? I guess particularly to Andy, since you were hired to do kind of those digital bits, how was your kind of how do you guys view digital media, and do you write specifically knowing that these things like Dick in a Box could just go viral?
Well, we actually didn't get hired to do videos. I got hired based just on the auditions, and those guys got hired as writers from their packet. But we had done shorts before that, and we started doing them when we got there. But, I mean, it's definitely something that's on your mind a little now when you work there, just because there's a precedent set. But I would say in general, when you're coming up with ideas, you're just trying to think of whatever is making anyone laugh in the room at that exact moment, because it's got to happen so fast. I don't think we've ever been like, this one's going viral. Like, you're just like, I pray that this airs and people laugh.
Do you mind that people watch the show in bits a lot the next Sunday or Monday or on Hulu or wherever?
I mean, yeah, definitely people tell me after, they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that online. But, you
don't care.
Is that what they sound like?
Every person who says that to me sounds that way, yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, if each one of you could just very briefly tell me, what was your favorite character and what was the most challenging character, like from your entire career? You guys do such a good job, I mean, with all characters, so which one was your favorite?
I like doing Nicholas Vane, this newspaper guy. I don't know about challenging. I think it was hard to wear Prince shoes. You know, they're really pointy and they're hard to walk on.
I don't know. Do I do any characters?
Yeah, sure you do, buddy.
What about
come on, bro.
Yeah, is Kathy more of an impression though?
Yeah, but it's a character.
It's an homage. It's like it's a theatrical homage.
That's his favorite. Hey, that's what he likes doing best.
What do you hate doing? What does he hate doing, Fred?
You like,
Andy,
I think you like doing Rahm Emanuel.
Yeah.
I love doing Rahm Emanuel. Very challenging.
And you met Rahm Emanuel.
I did meet Rahm Emanuel at the White House.
Not bad.
Yeah.
You have a conversation?
No, he just didn't talk to me the whole time. I just sat there. No, he was very nice. It was cool. He made me sit at his desk. He made me. He's like, sit at the desk. You like it? You like how that feels? I was like, yeah. Is Obama here? No, he's busy.
It's probably not, the meeting is probably not going to have like a Frost Nixon type play written about it. From the sounds of things.
There's a movie in the works for me and Rahm's meeting.
I think to like, what do I like doing? I like being a straight man. That's always fun. I know that's like not a specific character, but that's a good time. Like calling someone crazy when they're being crazy, not just eating shit, but like being able to have the opportunity to be like, why are you acting this way? Like that kind of thing. And then the hardest was probably playing George Bush, because it was like we were at war. I was like the fifth person to do it, and most notably, to still have to follow like Will Ferrell in anything is difficult. But that was probably the most challenging.
I would say, the most fun that I have probably is doing Garth and Kat with Fred, just because it's, you get a chance to like do something that isn't really written out, and I just love doing that with him. And the most challenging, I think, for me is just doing any character again after I've done it the first time, because there's just so much pressure to kind of do it the same but completely different. And you don't want it to be that time everyone's like, oh, she should have just done it that one time and then left it alone. So that's always a challenge for me to like repeat stuff.
Favorite for me would probably be the scared straight dude. I like shouting obscenities and referencing 80s movies. And challenging, I guess, is probably doing all the ladies, I guess, because all the crew members are like, hey, nice legs, or whatever, every time I walk past. It's a little uncomfortable. And yeah, they mean it. They're strangely provocative.
Definitely my favorite thing, I think, similar to what Jason was saying. I love on an update just sort of having to deal with because everybody comes to the desk is so crazy. And someone made a joke that my catchphrase, the only thing I've had close to a catchphrase is, I'm going to stop you there. And then, yeah, I was completely, I sort of felt like out of my depths, I think, when I was sort of doing sketches. But I think the hardest for me was John Kerry in the sort of 04 elections, because it's very, like, the best impressions are exaggerations, and it's very hard to exaggerate, like gravitas.
You all spoke of just how you came into being actors on the show, and I know Jason, Mr. Sudeikis, you...
Doctor.
You came on as a writer, even though you were going after something else, and I was just wondering, do writers, like, how do they just bring new writers onto your show? Are they other writers that you've worked with and you suggest that they write for the show, or perhaps, I don't know, someone else from NBC worked on a different program? How does that, because you all had similar experiences with getting on being a cast member.
Yeah, I mean, we always look at packs every summer. You know, we get like 200 submissions, and a lot of them are sort of by recommendation and stuff. We try to read through, when we do read through all of them. But we sometimes then like people will audition, and you'll like with Jason, and you'll go, oh, this guy, you know, might not fit on the show right now, but bring him in as a writer. But we have a lot of different ways of getting people. But rarely have they worked on other stuff. It's usually people's first writing job, which is nice.
Professional writing job.
They send it to us, yeah. Yeah, well, there's just send to NBC.
What's the address?
30 Rockefeller Plaza.
Zip.
Yeah, so you can look it up.
They'll figure it out.
10112.
I just had a question for Kristen, which is in regards to the MacGruber movie, which I loved. Will there be a sequel?
I don't think so. I wish.
She looks like Will a little bit.
Yeah.
But are you MacGruber?
The boy. Forte?
Forte.
We're not doing a sequel.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
We were going to call it McTuber, though.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
MacGruber goes number 2.
That's really funny. Is that really?
Yes.
I was wondering if any of y'all had a favorite host to work with.
There you go.
That's a good one.
I always get that, and I never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice when actors come, you know what I mean, or people that, you know, get it, basically, and are happy to be there and stuff.
Who do you like?
That. Like your Alec Baldwins and your, I mean, any kind of like legends like your Steve Martins, like that's always like a crazy, frightening pleasure. But yeah, I mean, like recently Brian was great, you know what I mean? Like he jumped in and just had a bunch of different choices for every character and every line that he was doing, so that's nice.
It's nice when like you find new people that you think might be like staple hosts in the way that like Baldwin. And
You think
Hanks
Betty
are.
White will be doing it a lot?
I hope so. I mean, she was. That was, you know, for the very high expectations that everyone had for the show. I was incredibly happy with her.
Pretty great.
She was awesome.
Yes.
First of all, Seth, thank you for representing New Hampshire so well.
Live free or die.
What is that?
That's the motto of New Hampshire.
Oh, no, I know.
But also, it's good. One of my other favorite shows, Tim and Eric Awesome Show. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they did a parody of the show Open. That was pretty dead on and maybe a little mean. I was just wondering how you felt about the show Open, which is kind of goofy. I mean, you got Sudeikis playing basketball and throwing shit at the camera.
Right.
Just wondering how the process of like what
Great example.
Like where we decide.
How do you feel about it and how they decide what you're doing?
Well, they don't like go. You know, we do sort of talk to them about it as well. I mean, again, there's something nicely traditional about that I sort of like about it. I mean, you know, that is one of the things about working for a show that has such a tradition is you can sort of buck it to a certain point, but at other point you have to sort of embrace it. I personally like sort of embracing tradition, and for me, like, I mean, the first time I shot, you know, an SNL Open, and I did terrible at it. It's harder than you think to like just act and then turn to a camera and smile.
What was it that was?
I can't. My first one, I just looked like a guy who had just been told he's on Saturday Night Live and couldn't believe it. But it kind of gives you. I mean, you know, for whatever people might think about it, it gives you goosebumps to do something like that. You know,
to hear Don Pardo say your name too is like.
But yeah, it's definitely against, I think, a comedian's instincts to do like a take to camera, like when you're shooting and they're like, okay, and you're like.
I was just playing basketball at night. I had no idea there was a camera.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, similar to what Seth said, like as you're doing it, you're like, wow, like all my heroes have done this, so maybe it's not a bad idea.
But the Tim and Eric thing was really funny.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I know them too, Fred. They're good guys.
Hello.
Working on a skit in the writer's room and it falls flat in the performance.
Yes.
That silence.
Yeah.
Oh.
Looking forward to doing it on Wednesday.
I would say that happens more so than it does well.
Yeah.
All the time.
Like, it goes
I guess
well,
what,
that's
what
rare,
people in
man.
the audience think when you go to a movie and it's terrible and you think, how did they not know?
Yeah.
So don't know. You just never know.
At that point in
why
a
is
movie, they've spent so much money trying to make it as well as they can that they got to put it out to try to make some of it back. Like a lot of times, I think even writing something when we think it's not going to go great, and then then it like people get into it. Like I remember the first time we did the A-holes, like for like Jack Black, it was just us like up at night, 5 a.m, thinking of something, and then it came up because we were chewing gum to stay awake, right?
Yeah, and I wanted to pull it. I was like, in the morning, I was like, what did we write? This is crazy. Like, I don't know if I want to do it because it was like very early on.
Yeah, and then people laughed at it like on page 3, and there's 7 more pages of laughs, and just got, so it happens both ways too.
The other way, yeah, too, because when you do that joke where you're like, this is the whole scene, and then it's just silence.
So
yeah,
then
when you don't get a key laugh on page 1, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
If they didn't like it on 1, they're not going to like it on 9.
Oh, yeah.
It must feel like an hour.
Yeah, and there are times, by the way, that we have, like, if you see something on our show on Saturday, and you're like, why would they put that on? Like, I swear, sometimes 3 hours ago, people really liked it. We had a dress rehearsal audience. They were on board. They signed
So
up.
what's happened? It's the audience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain, collective mind of an audience that sometimes, they just go for
The audiences are very different sometimes.
Yeah, it's live television.
So people I'm not sure everybody knows that you have a dress rehearsal and then you get those people out and you have a whole new audience coming
that's
to the
from
live
8
shot.
to 10, and it's usually like half hour long, and so we have to cut half an hour out.
But it can be as simple as the timing on a cut live wasn't the same exact moment, and that's the moment that unlocks the joke, that kind of stuff. Or somebody doesn't say the line quite as funny as they said it at dress, and then other times it's the opposite way where a thing plays decent at dress and then it just destroys on it.
But the first time this happens to you on national television, as opposed to doing it at the Groundlings or a smaller venue, it must be horrifying.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, it's really, but then
horrible.
it's actually still fun though, because you're with your friends and it's like an inside joke. So it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like
that is true.
No, it's true. There is that moment
but there's
in time.
something nice about it. If I'm next to
I know.
Andy and it's dead silence, it doesn't matter. That's
Well, you definitely bond in those moments.
Yeah.
And then you rewatch them like later.
That's you rewatch those more than anything.
Oh, really? The Bond?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
Something that gets nothing is all
Especially when other people in the sketch are laughing because they know it's
so
tanking.
funny.
And you've got like a crazy costume on and they know like the big number's coming and no one's on board. It's sweaty.
I will also...
And then also just the integrity, I have to say as a writer, the integrity of our cast when you watch ones where it's nothing and they're still out there working for it. They're just still going for it and you're like, God bless those guys.
Yeah.
I'm giving them nothing and they're just selling it in those dumb
You got to go
hats.
for it more then,
Yeah. Speaking from growing up watching the show though.
I can see we touched a nerve here, that failure is the most...
It's the most
Got
fun.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I remember watching growing up, and my favorite stuff was always the weird stuff that got less laughs.
Late at night.
Yeah, and when I've gone back and watched stuff that I remember as a kid being the most classic stuff that destroyed, you watch it and there's gaps of minutes with no laughs.
So Andy, what do you remember the stuff that maybe not everybody does that was kind of odd and after 12:30 and older Saturday Night Lives that you thought were great?
Gosh. I mean, Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, that kind of stuff.
That's one of the best.
But as a kid, I was like, this is one of the most classic things of all time. And you watch them back now, and a lot of the audiences are just completely confused. But to me, I was like, that's a formative.
So what have you done recently that had this feel? You thought this is great. Maybe it's a little ahead of its time. It got nothing in front of the audience you were a little disappointed in the reaction, or a lot disappointed in the reaction.
Something
that struck out, but you loved.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, struck out's a hard way to put it. Because there are certain things that you do where you know that it's not as sort of joke-based.
Right.
And it's sort of going to play as a piece. And the people that are going to like it are going to, love it. And then other people are going to wonder why we even sort of put it up. But I think that the shape of the show is a thing that Lorne has a really good feel for as well, which is sort of the first half of the show sort of buys you the real estate to take some chances in the second half of the show.
You got a question?
Hi. I had read that leading up to the Iraq War, the New York Times said that the Bush administration actually looked to Saturday Night Live to see if the American public would tolerate the war.
Wow.
If you believe the New York Times. So I'm wondering, you're such an institution, you're on the network. Do you feel that power, and do you ever have a political agenda?
I'm going to tell you something. I think they were going to invade Iraq no matter what we did. Yeah. I'm not going to carry that.
Yeah. Over here.
I was just wondering, Was it like when you guys were growing up? Because they always say that comedy is always the hardest thing to write. And when you guys were growing up, was it like really like a moment in time where you're like, I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Or is it just kind of like, as you just went through and you realized just how much you love doing comedy and how, like just how great it made you feel, and it just like kind of clicked? Or was it just more or less like you had always thought that you'd grow up to be comedians or be actors?
I have no idea what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I wish I knew, but like I've just been doing it for so long. But I love to do it. You know what I mean? But I think there are other things that I would like to get my interest in, like maybe producing or like actually, you know, getting behind the camera or something like that. So I'm always thinking of that. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to like continue to pop up in comedy clubs in Cleveland or something like that, you know, late at night or whatever, and be like, here comes what I've been thinking of lately. But, you know, as an actor, I don't know, I think you always kind of want that longevity, you know, you always have it on your mind, like what's going to be the next gig anyway, so it's kind of just a natural thing to always.
We started out talking about auditions, and I wonder if you hadn't made it, what would you have ended up doing? What would have been the alternate?
I feel like I would still be in LA doing the LA scene, like a bit part on Felicity, or, you know what I mean, like 2 weeks on Barbershop 2, you know what I mean?
It's true.
That's how I would.
Felicity hasn't been on the air for like 15 years.
Yeah, I know. It was a good reference, because that's what I actually did.
Right where you know.
And my first experience in a fat suit.
I think I'd be hosting Chelsea Lately if I didn't have this.
Should be called Chelsea Lately.
Oh, I hope so. I just love the format. I love the way she does it. I just want to do it. I think I look cute as a blonde.
Yes.
You said that on Mondays you pitched to the host. Obviously, you're writing a little bit towards the specific host.
Yes, that's a waste of a question. Next. No.
Is there anything that you really specifically wanted to pitch to a certain host but was just way too inappropriate or just crossing the line, or for a Weekend Update sketch?
Yeah, we had done these things that was like, it was Derek Jeter's Taco Hole was the first one. And then it was Al Sharpton's Casa de Sushi.
Derek Jeter's
Taco Hole. It was a Mexican restaurant, and it was to Kokomo.
Yep.
It was like, that's where we want to go. Derek Jeter's Taco Hole. And it was him, it was Derek Jeter. And then it was Al Sharpton's Casa de Sushi. And then it was, Donald Trump's House of Wings.
Yep.
And that was to Van Halen's Jump.
Yep.
And it was just, he would describe they were really terrible restaurants. And then I think we wrote, we tried to write Paris Hilton's Crab Shack. So it was a continuation.
What do you mean tried?
We wrote it and then it didn't.
Caught it.
Yeah, she caught it.
Got it.
Too bad.
Feel bad.
It was 50-50 all the way.
But there are a few things, like, Lorne always asks the host, is there anything he wants to stay away from? And every now and then there's something. I'm trying to think if there's a really good one that somebody spiked.
Do the politicians want you to stay away from stuff?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And that would be?
Stuff that makes them look bad.
There you go.
It's always that nice thing when we have a politician.
That's counterintuitive.
You always try to put in a couple jokes when a politician comes.
And to see if they're awake.
Well, also, you want them to go, I can't do those two, and then maybe the third one will stay in.
Oh, you know what was, well, remember the with Liam Neeson? There's like the scene that Tellerico wrote.
Oh, was it the Schindler's List? Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a Schindler's List scene where
But it wasn't about Schindler's List. It was about the NBC were doing all these bugs, you know, like down at the bottom of the screen where it's like The Apprentice or like whatever, and it would take up like a whole third of the screen.
And it was, so the sketch was Liam Neeson
it was
acting, doing scenes from Schindler's List.
It was Liam and Fred doing like the scene that like.
But then Daryl would be Donald Trump coming out of the bottom going, money, 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 money. It's like, what's The Apprentice?
and it played as well as it did here now. Like, it was really, really well written. But then Liam, obviously, having met a lot of the families of the people on the list and everything, felt it was, you know, he didn't want to, you know, disrespect them, and so we didn't do it. But
and then I remember you saying, "You're a coward."
I did. I did. Okay. And he still is. Say it again.
Your comedy a little bit and television. I'm sure people still remember
Sid Caesar.
Great Sid Caesar shows
Great.
and the way they were put together.
Yeah.
And of course, you had some incredible writers with Larry Gelb and Mel Brooks and Ryan and everybody. But the point is, everybody had a strong personality. They nearly killed each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened with Laughing. They started doing intercut. It was a different rhythm, a whole other thing with Smothers Brothers. There usually was a head writer. Everybody here is very egalitarian right now. Everybody's lovely and precious and lovely. What happens with the pressure? And forget about Lorne Green at the moment.
We will forget about him. I promise.
I definitely will not think about him.
You know you're all going to be
Lorne Michaels. Lorne Michaels.
eventually. Now, the point
We will be
is,
in front of Lorne Green eventually.
How?
In heaven, I think.
Jesus
Christ.
Aww.
How strong are you in your feelings and opinions about this has to stay in? I'm not giving. I mean,
Are you asking who's in charge?
who's the captain of the ship?
There we go.
No, it's great to hand over that power to someone else. You know, it's trust. There's a lot of trust.
But I will say Lorne lets the writer of the piece be king. Like no other show, when you write a piece, you produce it. Like you talk to wardrobe, you talk to design, you talk to hair, you make all the choices. And Lorne wants people who are incredibly strong-willed, who will fight for the integrity of their piece. And then after it goes up on dress, Lorne might have some notes. But every one of us has the right. Certainly with Weekend Update, every now and then there's a joke where he's like, don't do that. And if we feel very strongly, we'll go in and make a case of why we have to do it. And he will, it's a little bit of sometimes he'll go, well, I encourage you to hang yourself with your own rope. But he will say, if you really want to feel very strongly about something, he will let you fight for it.
Yeah.
But he likes writers who fight for their stuff. He wants people who are passionate, and especially with the grand show, he is in charge, but with individual pieces, he wants you to be the charge.
But there's compression. There's only this a certain amount of time, and you feel strong about something. What happens is the captain of the ship. This is Lorne.
It's Lorne, yeah. He makes a choice. He cuts something, and he doesn't want fisticuffs after he cuts something. He doesn't want people to be that passionate. But the good news about our show is if you're a winner or a loser on Saturday, none of it matters on Monday. So he wants people who have short memories.
Well, I think we should also help around and be a little shittier to each other during the rest of the season.
Yeah,
These last two. You got it, asshole.
This question is for Seth Meyers. Do you miss performing at all since you took on the role of head writer?
I love doing Weekend Update, which I still I think that helps my performance buzz. I don't. I really love writing. And all these guys are all incredible writers as well, because I don't think the cast gets enough credit for how much writing they do, and sort of every great character these guys have came from them more than it came from a writer. A writer might have helped sort of type it in. But when I was a cast member, I had to write for myself, and I had a lot more fun writing for people as talented as them than I did for myself.
You, and then we'll call it a day.
This is for Dr. Sudeikis.
Yes. Reverend.
Can you just talk a little bit about the transition between being a writer and getting on a cast?
Excuse me?
I just said you're the only one that took that path on this dance.
On this panel, yeah. It basically went, I auditioned August of '03, and then got called a couple weeks later saying, hey, we want you to be a writer. It's like, cool. And then moved out, and then got to do a few things in the monologue, asked some questions here and there, and then the next season came back and then auditioned again, and then Rob Riggle ended up getting it, and then I wrote, and then 17 episodes in, we had a break, and on like a Friday before a Monday, Lorne's office called me. It was just like, hey Jason, will you call Lorne? And I was like, yeah. And I called him, and he answered, and he's like, so we want to add you to the cast. And I was kind of like, okay, let me think about it. I was like, at that point he knew I was joking. And then I was like, great. And he goes, yeah, so just, these last 3 shows, write anything you think you can score on. And, that's it. I was like, okay, thanks for changing my life. All right. and then just sort of got to relax that summer and didn't have to audition again. And then Andy and Bill came in, and then Kristen, 5 episodes later, and then, yeah.
So you auditioned 3 times?
Twice for the show, and then twice for Update, yeah.
In the 30-year history of Saturday Night Live, who's done the best Lorne Michaels voice?
Probably Lorne.
Yeah. Although I feel like he's losing it now. It's like not as good as it used to be.
Not as good as it used to be.
You always hear Dana. They say Dana.
Okay. Yeah. Not Alec Baldwin.
I'd like to thank Seth for representing Northwestern University.
Oh,
Go
boy.
Cats.
A lot of shout-outs.
Go Cats.
Tons of shout-outs.
New Hampshire, Northwestern.
Yep.
Any high school? Where'd you go to high school?
I went to West High.
Excellent.
Woo!
Go ahead.
Let's go Slugs.
Probably.
Slugs.
Probably
Oh,
Slugs.
The more I shut up, the funnier you guys are. The comedy writer Alan Zweibel, one of the sort of early founding writers, wrote a lot of Gilda Radner stuff in the day. I once heard him interviewed, and he told a story about literally sitting under the desk, Weekend Update or whatever it was, I think it was called that at the time, literally writing jokes and handing them up to Jane Curtin, Bill Murray. It was not, I don't know if this is a function of the Coke fuel years or whatever, but does it ever get anything close to that frantic or crazy these days?
Not that frantic. We had a very frantic week this week with the cold open.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of completely rewrote the cold open between Dress and Air, and so that was the first.
The Rahm Emanuel.
Yes,
Yep.
and so there were huge chunks of it that sort of Andy and Bobby did for the first time live, that's a little more frantic than it gets. I think Update has sort of built a system, sort of because Alan was like one of the original writers of Update, and I think we've built a system with a little more fail-safes in it than that.
I'll still hang out under the desk during air, though. like I'm hiding, like I'm camping. It's like a fort. Like I ran away, kind of. I'll bring all my Garfield books.
I mean, this is a side story. Alan Zweibel was famously, or at least tells the story, he's famously hired for one joke that was Lorne read in his pack, which was there was a commemorative stamp for prostitution. It was 5 cents, 25 if you wanted to lick it.
Everybody, thank you. Thanks for coming. See you next year. Thank you. Thank you very much.